April 6, 1917. After nearly 3 years of staying out of Europe's bloodiest conflict, the United States declared war on Germany. Millions of Americans had believed the Atlantic Ocean would keep them safe from Europe's chaos. But a relentless submarine campaign, a secret diplomatic message, and the growing destruction of World War I changed everything. This is the story of why America entered World War I and how one decision helped shape the outcome of the war. When the First World War erupted in 1914, the United States chose neutrality. President Woodrow Wilson urged Americans to remain impartial in both thought and action, hoping to avoid being drawn into a conflict that was consuming Europe. Across the Atlantic, however, the war quickly became unlike anything the world had ever seen. Vast trench systems stretched for hundreds of miles, while artillery pounded the landscape day and night. Every offensive cost thousands of lives, yet the front lines barely moved. Although the United States remained neutral, the Atlantic Ocean had become one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Great Britain depended on ships carrying food, ammunition, fuel, and raw materials from overseas. To cut off these vital supplies, Germany turned to a powerful new weapon, the submarine. Unlike traditional warships, German U-boats could disappear beneath the sea and strike without warning. Their mission was simple: sink every ship carrying supplies to Britain, even if civilians were on board. In January 1915, Germany announced unrestricted submarine warfare around the British Isles. Neutral ships were warned that entering these waters could mean destruction without warning. On May 7, 1915, that warning became a horrifying reality. Off the southern coast of Ireland, the British ocean liner Lusitania was struck by a German torpedo. Within minutes, one of the world's largest passenger ships began to disappear beneath the Atlantic. Nearly 1,200 people lost their lives, including 128 Americans. Although the United States did not enter the war immediately, the sinking shocked the nation and transformed public opinion. For many Americans, the war no longer seemed like a distant European conflict. Defoe's sinking of the Lusitania outraged Americans, but President Woodrow Wilson still believed war could be avoided. Instead of declaring war, Washington demanded that Germany stop attacking civilian ships without warning. LT text. Germany temporarily backed down. In 1916, after another passenger ship, the Sussex, was attacked, Berlin promised that its submarines would no longer sink merchant or passenger vessels without first warning the crew and allowing civilians to escape. This became known as the Sussex Pledge. For a brief moment, it appeared that peace between the United States and Germany might survive. But on the battlefields of Europe, Germany faced a growing crisis. The war had become a deadly stalemate, and Britain's naval blockade was slowly strangling the German economy. German leaders believed there was only one way to win. If every ship sailing to Britain could be destroyed before American soldiers ever reached Europe, Britain might be forced to surrender. It was an enormous gamble. On January 31, 1917, Germany abandoned the Sussex Pledge. The following day, unrestricted submarine warfare resumed. Every ship approaching Britain, neutral or allied, civilian or military, could now be attacked without warning. As German submarines returned to the Atlantic, another secret plan was already underway. German leaders feared that unrestricted submarine warfare would eventually pull the United States into the conflict. If that happened, Germany wanted America distracted much closer to home. German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann sent a coded telegram to the German ambassador in Mexico. If the United States entered the war, Germany proposed an alliance with Mexico. In return, Germany promised support to help Mexico recover territory it had lost decades earlier: Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Germany believed the message would remain secret, but British codebreakers had been quietly intercepting German communications since the beginning of the war. Hidden inside a secure intelligence office, they began decoding one of the most important messages of the 20th century. After confirming the telegram's authenticity, Britain faced another problem. Revealing the message could expose the fact that British intelligence had broken Germany's secret diplomatic codes. Instead, London carefully concealed the source before sharing the telegram with Washington. On March 1, 1917, American newspapers published the Zimmermann telegram. Across the country, millions of readers were stunned. Germany was no longer threatening American ships. It appeared to be encouraging an attack on American soil. At first, many Americans believed the telegram was British propaganda. Then, in an astonishing move, Arthur Zimmermann publicly admitted that the message was genuine. Overnight, skepticism turned into outrage. By the spring of 1917, the evidence was impossible to ignore. German submarines were sinking American ships. The Zimmermann telegram had revealed a direct threat against the United States. After nearly 3 years of neutrality, President Woodrow Wilson concluded that America could no longer remain on the sidelines. On April 2, 1917, Wilson appeared before Congress and delivered one of the most important speeches in American history. He declared that Germany's actions had become a war against all nations and asked Congress for a declaration of war. 4 days later, on April 6, 1917, Congress approved the declaration. The United States was officially at war with Germany. Across the country, recruiting stations filled almost overnight. Millions of young Americans answered the call to serve. Factories expanded around the clock, producing rifles, artillery shells, uniforms, trucks, aircraft, and supplies on a scale the nation had never seen before. Soon, American troops crossed the Atlantic as part of the American Expeditionary Forces under General John J. Pershing. Their arrival brought fresh manpower, new resources, and renewed hope to the exhausted Allied armies. In 1918, American soldiers were fighting alongside British and French forces on the Western Front. Their arrival strengthened Allied defenses and helped shift the balance against an exhausted German army. America's entry into the war did not end the fighting overnight, but its industrial strength, financial resources, and millions of fresh soldiers gave the Allies the momentum they desperately needed. In November 1918, Germany agreed to an armistice, bringing 4 years of devastating war to an end. So, why did America enter World War I? The answer wasn't a single event. It was a chain of events. Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare threatened American lives and commerce. The sinking of passenger ships shocked the public. The Zimmermann telegram convinced many Americans that Germany was willing to bring the war directly to the United States. Together, these events transformed a nation determined to stay neutral into one prepared to fight. When American forces arrived in Europe, they brought more than soldiers. They brought fresh industry, enormous economic power, and renewed confidence to exhausted Allied armies. While victory came at a terrible human cost, America's intervention helped change the course of the war and reshaped the balance of power for the 20th century. More than a century later, the decision made in 1917 remains one of the most important turning points in modern history. It marked the moment the United States stepped onto the world stage as a global military power, a role it would continue to play throughout the 20th century and beyond. History is rarely shaped by a single decision. More often, it is the result of many choices, each building upon the last, until the course of the world changes forever. America's entry into World War I was one of those moments. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Past Portrayed, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter in history.